it simply, this is the entry point for the Infiniti Q60 range, the two-door coupe version of the Q50 saloon. Instead of a 400 bhp twin-turbo V6 under the bonnet, you get a more modest 2.0-liter four-cylinder engine that also benefits from a bit of forced induction. Although there are no doubt a few of you wondering why there's no fleet-friendly diesel option, there are a number of advantages to having a petrol powerplant. The first is refinement. The Q60 may sound pleasingly roary when worked hard, but it fires up and cruises with virtually no vibration and a subdued noise. For general schlepping, you don't need to push the engine too hard to get the required level of thrust. If you want to go faster, then you need to explore the upper reaches of the rev range, something that brings us to our first problem, the gearbox. The 7-speed torque converter automatic is smooth in normal use but can be slow and clumsy when you flatten the throttle, pausing before it shuffles down a couple of ratios to get the engine spinning into the power band. If you're looking to pull off a finely timed overtaking maneuver, we'd advise manually selecting the cog you want. Given the unspectacular power-to-weight ratio, it's a surprise to feel the traction control stepping in regularly. Switch it off, or as off as you can, and you'll soon find that the rear of the Q60 can be persuaded to follow a very different line from the front, especially on winter tires and in damp conditions. Still, gathering the rear of the car up is easy enough, and if the angle gets too wild, the stability control steps in to tidy things up. The electronic steering's quick action even in comfort mode certainly helps. That doesn't mean there's no feedback, the steering still feels numb, with very little difference between the 7 modes, just a little more gloopy in weight as you move up the sporting scale. On our test car, there was also a disconcerting clunk when the steering was pushed up against the lock stops. Even in premium tech trim, as opposed to sport, the ride is surprisingly fidgety over what looks like smooth roads. Adaptive suspension is available but doesn't seem to make a great deal of difference. Inside, there's no doubting the richness of the materials used. Everything feels pleasingly soft and of high quality until you get to the lowest reaches of the cabin. Spoiling things slightly are some of the Nissan part spin switches and readouts. The infotainment system features 2 touchscreens, mounted one on top of the other. While it has plenty of app-based connectivity options, it's often sluggish to respond to commands and looks rather old school. At least you get good old-fashioned buttons for the heater controls. As for the rear, leg room is good, but headroom is tight even for shorter individuals.